it's an amazing piece of gear. Yeah, and it just like the I think I use the grandmother for bass in probably every single song that I make. Yeah, great sense. I can nerd out on gear all night.
Oh yeah,
we can nerd out on gear on the show a little bit. Speaking of the show, welcome to the Long Play Listening Party. The show where we go deep on local music, writing, recording, inspiration, gear, synthesizers, and whatever else sounds good to us. Of course, I'm Howie Howard from Mr. Furious Records. Nate Holt, Strawley's Music, my co-host. What's going on, Nate?
How's everybody doing?
And we are joined once again by Joel and Daniel from Serene Fiend.
Woo!
Joel, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having us.
And Daniel, what's going on?
What y'all doing? I did a different one this time.
What are y'all doing?
Yeah. We like different ones. We're going to be listening to effectively side 2 of Elegies and Effigies, the new album from Serene Fiend. You can stream it ad-free for free at serenefiend.bandcamp.com. Of course, you can also purchase it there, which we highly encourage. And I don't know. Should we just jump into some music, Nate?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's jump into some music.
Got another long 9 Inch Nails texture session on this one.
That's one of the many things we come to this record for, I think.
I just love how all the drums, I think these drums sound a little more like, yes, they're programmed, but, earlier, those drums sounded, could have been a live drummer playing that stuff.
Thank you. I definitely, especially on the opening track on Monument, I really tried to emphasize that a bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
For sure.
Joel,
absolutely.
on this one, was this one of the drum tracks you ran through the Tascam for saturation?
I can't remember if I did it on this one. It sounds like it, yes.
It does sound like it.
Yeah, it's
really
very
squishy and grimy.
Yep. I did so much experimenting with that thing. I wish I had room to keep it set up in here. It's in a closet right now, unfortunately.
Dude, can you growl like that, or did
I'm trying to do it live. Yeah,
fuck yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm a big death metal head, but I've never had a reason to like death growl, so I pulled it out on this one.
Sounds fucking great, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Doing it live is going to be a whole other thing, but I'm starting to find my voice in rehearsals. It'll be better when I have a monitor shooting straight at my face.
Right, because you don't want your actual vocal volume to be very loud, right?
No, because that's when you start getting into like the harsh territory that actually like hurts your voice.
Yeah.
A proper growl and scream is generally about as loud as your talking voice.
Yep.
Well, maybe while we're talking about voice, kind of, Joel, I want to talk about lyrics. This record really goes some places. It goes to some dark places. There are rays of hope, maybe. The rays of hope are undercut at other times, maybe. So I don't really have a particular entry point, but other than maybe to just observe, I think the lyrics are very good, and one of the ways in which they're good is that they're very raw, and they're very, you kind of tear your chest open and lay your heart out. And man, what's that like?
It's my first time doing it, honestly. I did it a little bit with some of the previous Serene Fiend stuff, but there still was this like kind of step between me and the voice that ended up on the recording. But this is, reflecting on, a couple of very specific times in my life and instances that conjured some of these thoughts and feelings, and then the lyrics in this is processing all of that and learning how to embrace change and how to become a different person, but also realizing that you need to quite truly kill off certain parts of you in order for that to happen. And depending on the severity of that, sometimes that's more traumatic than other times. And, I think topics of self-improvement, death, life, rebirth, all of that, I think they're topics that we shouldn't ever tiptoe around because they're very important. And I'm not one to mince words when it comes to those topics. I'll be as honest as possible about those things. And I think this record is a reflection of some of that reflection that I did while writing all of this. It's all very melancholic, but like you said, there's this tinge of hope that pervades the narrative of the entire record.
Is it hard to write? I mean, I agree with everything you said, but I find it hard to go to that place where I'm not filtering and I'm reducing that distance between how I really feel and what's going on the record as much as possible.
It definitely can be. I think my main advantage I have is I graduated college with a creative writing degree for poetry. So I have a lot of experience of doing exercise and channeling certain parts of my voice and my brain and my emotion and learning how to structure all of that. And then stepping away from it and then being able to come back and look at it and restructure it and edit it so that I can create some kind of narrative with it if I want, English and poetry were like my huge passion while I was in college, and I got accepted to grad school for it, but ended up not going. And music and lyricism is now just the thing that exists in my life that helps me sustain that interest, because I don't really write poetry or do anything like that anymore. I just channel it into my lyrics.
Yeah.
Punch you in the face at the end there.
Dude,
just
so
hammer fisting. Yeah, that track was a lot of fun. That track, Unto Myself, Don't Want to Die to a certain extent, Manufactured, and There Is No, that track, those have existed for like 3 years at this point. This album has, the composition of it has stretched out for so long. Finally, it's nice to finally get it out. I can move on a little bit now after this album comes out. Look to the next venture a bit.
Are there any other songs that were, a little bit older, or because I think you mentioned 3. Mm-hmm. So what about the rest? Are they more recent or?
They. So Unto Myself was the first one that came into focus, and that was the summer of 18.
Okay.
And Don't Want to Die was pretty soon after that. There Is No was pretty soon after that. Manufactured was pretty soon after that. And then the rest kind of trickled in the summer and winter of 19. And I finished lyrics on everything during the pandemic, when the pandemic first dropped in spring of 20. That's when I laid down the lyrics for a lot of stuff. And then it was just really it was a waiting game of well, there's no reason to put this out right now. I can't present it the way I want to because shows aren't a thing. And it was just biding time. It was basically done for this last year. I just was waiting for the right time to release it, and I released singles on my birthday over the pandemic successively. So I was like, why not? Third year, I'll just release the whole thing on my birthday. So that's what's happening.
There you go.
There's some auxiliary percussion in this
Yeah, I was gonna-
segment that I really am proud of.
I was about to ask about that.
Yeah, that's weird samples or not weird. The samples themselves aren't weird. It's a lot of just like smashing things together,
Yeah.
but then just processing the hell out of it and making it unrecognizable. You know, I really geek out about the destruction of samples. We get back to our death metal influence here.
I think that death metal influence is really important it's a really important ingredient in this whole stew that's going on. Because that's not even often something you get in sort of goth rock or industrial. I mean, there's some real crossing of streams here, but it's cohesive.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad it's cohesive because sometimes it's hard for me to like remove myself and what I want to hear in a composition and have it actually make sense to someone who's not me. So it's really nice to hear you say that because I did work very hard on trying to get the industrial, the death metal, and like the just generic like pop hook structure stuff to all meld, you know?
Yeah, no, you succeeded so well that it like kind of hadn't crossed my mind until just now. That, like, oh yeah, that is like kind of a separate strain of influence that isn't always present in this.
Yeah.
So yeah, you knocked that one out of the park.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Daniel's
I've just
nodding in agreement for the record. I would like the note taker to note that Daniel's nodding.
I was just thinking, like, I think one of the reasons why the whole Hypermortal crew is kind of on this wavelength with Joel is because we're huge, like, Opeth fans, and they were always about that stark contrast between, like, the beauty and the melancholy, and then, like, the really gritty, you know, death metal stuff going on, Swedish type death metal, and you know, while we often compose and stuff in these progressive domains, like that dynamic has always been an essential aspect of like a live performance for us. And I think Joel kind of hit it on the head with a lot of these compositions, like going between the melancholy and the angst and the ennui and the anger and then like the hope and beauty and then the darkness and destruction. Like it makes for compelling, you know, live sound in general.
I love the end synth there, man.
Thank you. That's more just. Let me see how destroyed I can make this and how automate saturation plugins so it changes and how it distorts over time and stuff. Yeah. Just making it an organic, making synths sound more organic than they are electronic is like one of my favorite avenues to navigate.
And having, you know, the same like again, the same kind of arpeggiated stuff just evolve and adding stuff into it and making it different. Like the Hydra synths that I have, there's so many ways that you can get things to modulate.
Yeah.
Just from the front panel to shift sounds into different things.
That's where shit gets wild.
Well, and the MS-20 too. I mean, Those things
Was that
are just
image
like
funny?
alive. The high pass filter, get it resonating. The ESP, if you like run it through its own ESP and like distort that way, and then like I swear the envelopes don't trigger the same every time. Like it just
No, they don't.
there's just some slip in the envelopes.
That's why that synth is so beautiful. It's like its own organic fucking organism. It's so good. This is the song that I have to pay licensing fees on.
I need you more than anything in my life. I want you more than anything in my life. I miss you more than anyone in my life. I love you more than anyone.
And this is my only guitar solo contribution.
I just love that synth, that pad under it. I love textures like that, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think we're one and the same.
Yeah, Serene Fiend's kind of had a history of doing some covers. Like it seems like just about every year that we've been active, there's been a pretty kick-ass cover going down. Like one in particular, my favorite was the Einstürzende Neubauten song we did for Fiendstavus.
Yeah.
And then of course like Refugee went over pretty well in the very early days. The
I can't
U2 cover.
believe how many people knew that song when we would perform it. There would be
So Daft
We
Punk
played-
is like the natural
Yeah, I can't
progression.
wait. I can't wait to perform this one at the show and see people's reactions. Even when we did Rammstein for that one show, there was like 8 people in
yeah.
the crowd who were just like, wow! They were so stoked. But that's
Yeah, I forgot we did that Rammstein song. That was a good one.
That's like the beauty of ephemera to me is like I was like, for better or for worse, I was like, no, we're doing that song for this one show, and people who go to this show, we're gonna hear Serene Fiend cover Rammstein, and no one else is gonna hear it. Like it's just like it's the show you go to is special for a specific reason.
So was there any, like, what was the process like of saying I'm gonna do this cover, now I'm gonna find out what I gotta do to be able to
For
do it legally?
for that Daft Punk one specifically.
Yeah.
So the root of it comes from Sharp 9. We actually covered that song for our last couple of years as a band. And it was one of my favorite moments on stage with them is doing that song. And I was kind of obsessed with the lyrics and how simple they are, but how, they're very sad, but they're very romantic and beautiful. There's a lot of layer of emotion in those very simple lyrics, and it just made sense and it fit into the Serene Fiend ethos pretty seamlessly. So it's like, how do I take that otherwise very funky minimalist composition and make it dark, brooding, melancholic, and industrial in some way, and that song probably went through 2, 3, 4 iterations before I landed on something that I was like, okay, this is it. And then it fell together pretty quickly after that. The solo took me forever, though. I could not find a solo that I was happy with on that.
With me. Are you happy to be here? Are you happy to be sand to glass, metal to rust? What have I become? Grief is nothing but an epitaph that will never do this just. Gracious just words set in stone that can't possibly say enough. Does it even matter now? Are you happy to be here? Are you happy to be with me? Are you happy to be here? Are you happy to be Santa Glass, metal to rust? What have I been?
Now it's the Behringer Neutron party, baby.
It says a lot that when a section can just hold our attention like that, right? Without planning, just like, yeah, this needs some space.
Yeah, it's that big emotional denouement, right at the end there. Just capitulates the record's narrative a little bit and kind of recolors everything just a little bit to send you off to the outro. I had a lot of fun writing the lyrics for that song in particular. As drab as they might be, I really enjoyed the writing process for those lyrics.
Do you do most of your vocals on a SM7B, or do you have a condenser? Or
Majority is SM7, and then there was a couple instances on here where I did them with just a SM58, and I just ran them through my color box just to give them a little more spank. Yeah. But then I found a video that detailed how to just do a front end EQ to basically match the frequency response of an SM7. So sometimes I will just straight up apply that up front to the SM58 and then just give it some of that SM7 character just in the front end so it sounds familiar, when I'm recording and stuff.
You do it all in your room space at the time, or did you do it in the library?
This record, vocals was probably half and half, the library and home.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much neutral environment you were using for
Not a
it.
lot. I mean, all of the screaming on There Is No was right here where I'm sitting. Something About Us was all here. Yeah, just not babying it, not caring too much, just trying to get a vibe, and just if the take didn't sound very good or if there was a reflection, I just physically turned my body a little bit and I'm like, all right, I'll try it now, and then you just see what happens.
Yeah, that last track was definitely vibey.
Yeah,
so that was a neutron. That was a neutron at the end there.
Yep. Yeah, that was the neutron and just bleeding in the second voice as it went on, and I think there's a third track eventually to get that harmony at the end, but that's the majority of that is just the neutron by itself.
Crazy.
It's a fat synth. It is a fat synth, and I love using it because I have an SQ1 sequencer, and I love just getting fun little 5-7 weird odd step sequences with the neutron with that thing, and just I'll sequence it and then just let it ride and just turn the volume down and just have it in the background while I'm just chilling, or I did it once when I was cooking. I just left a fucking sequence go in the background and stuff, just total environmental music stuff.
That's awesome.
That's why you have synths, man. I mean, if you don't.
Yeah.
Generative cooking.
Make him work. Make them work.
We should say for the listeners, when Joel said a minute ago, some vocals were done at the library. Lawrence Public Library has an incredible recording studio available for free to library card holders. So number one, if you're a Lawrence resident, go get your library card if you haven't already. Number two, consider checking out the library studio. If there's some music you want to experiment with, or video editing, or podcasting, whatever the case might be, And we'll put a link to that in the description as well. But just an incredible resource for people in this town. I've used it myself.
Free freaking modular synths down there.
Yep. If you wanna get all the way into modular synthesis, we've got a great starting point for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I'm the manager of the space now, so your reservation, the approval goes through me, and I'll be the person there helping you get started. So come on through.
Awesome.
Sweet.
So that's Elegies and Effigies. I don't know. Is there anything, guys, that we didn't touch on or that you want to add to what we've said?
We've got CDs and a couple pieces of merch that will be available right as the album drops, and we'll have them in person at the release show. Like we said, Ebony Tuss and Young Machetes at the release show on August 27th. And that's just going to be bonkers from top to bottom. Those guys are so insane and they're so awesome at what they do. It's going to be a privilege to have them performing with us that night. And, the Serene Fiend all live for the first time ever at that show. It's going to be spectacular.
Be crazy. Yeah.
And we've got some visual ideas that me and Nick from Quiet Vessel, our graphic designer, we're kind of mulling over some possibilities so we can make the visuals stand out a little bit and just really, really make it worth everyone's time to come out and celebrate this album.
Nice.
Cool. And it's available at serenefiend.bandcamp.com. Joel, Daniel, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Pleasure was all mine.
Yeah. Tremendously appreciate you reaching out and setting this up. It's awesome.
No, thanks for coming on. It's great to talk to you, man.
Yeah.
It's always good to see you guys.
Always.
I hope you get a little more exposure on Instagram. I know working out some of the kinks has been difficulty, but it's always nice to see you pop up on my feed instead of ads for I don't know, like weight loss supplements or something, or like Russian cam girls. Instagram is
sure.
I mean, Instagram's
apparently
hard on me some days.
Missouri, there's a shortage of music producers in Missouri, and I'm not taking advantage of a tremendous opportunity. That's what I get from Instagram ads.
Well, listeners, tell us about your
Sorry to hear
Instagram
that.
ads. The Long Play LP.
Yeah, tell me about your
gmail.com.
worst Instagram ad.
Get on us on any of our social channels. Given that Instagram is giving us some headaches at this point, YouTube or your favorite podcast platform are the best bets to stay up with all the latest and greatest shows. This has been the Long Play Listening Party. Later, everybody.
Later.